Oh. Let's go, child. The brief adjournment ends and the nail-biting trial reconvenes.
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial.
Okay.
When last we left off, Mr. Linney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
That took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their attention. At this stage, let's revisit that scene from Linney's perspective.
Okay. Based on the opposition's account of events, you can identify loopholes in their statement. Oh my god. Use evidence and clues obtained during the investigation to refute any erroneous assertions of fact and replace them with new inferences. Use your refutations to convince the audience and obtain more support from the people. The oratress will display such shifts clearly. You find and refute all incorrect content. You can complete the cycle of refutation and unveil the truth. Woo! Begin refutation. Linney's accounts in the tunnel.
As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel.
Okay.
When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that this sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Linney red-handed. So Linney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Linney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident.
Okay.
And there you have it. That's the truth behind what happened.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's description of the events?
Probably, but I don't know which one.
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events, what Linney experienced, and what he saw.
Okay. Identify loopholes. Well, I mean, this did happen.
According to Linney, he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation with Halsey.
Yeah, boys. Okay. Okay. He wasn't in the tunnel. He was... Uh-huh. Huh.
Seems this won't produce a particularly effective rebuttal.
Wait, so, again.
Linney went to the room that contains the Oratrice's core. This is the actual truth.
Cowell walked in on Linney, so the latter was knocked him out in the vase. The existing evidence indicates that when Linney returned to the tunnel, the crime had already taken place. All Linney saw was...
Lenny did not take part in the underground altercation. He only witnessed traces of the aftermath.
Hey, yo.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon
Oh my
has
god,
something to
Paimon,
say.
stop.
When the countdown started, Lenny did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again, and in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent!
I mean, this sounds like a complete lie, but okay. Really? Oh my god.
Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that! Oh, wasn't it awesome?
Yes, Paimon, very awesome.
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
That's right!
Moreover, I believe my opposition's reasoning is flawed.
My reasoning?
The onstage equipment was clearly tampered with in a premeditated fashion. However, you say that Cowell bumped into Linny by chance.
If that's the case, then if Cowell hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the entire setup meant to kill? Assuming that what you say is true, Linny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing someone on stage be?
Oh, they have a point.
That's right, you tell him! And that's why they're partners of mine. They've managed to turn things around. Oh, well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what proof do you have to back your claims?
Do you happen to remember how you refuted Linny's alibi initially?
Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? Why do you ask? You're saying that he wasn't?
Your claim has now become my weapon. Your claim has also become a critical clue. Choose the most reasonable... which is the evidence that Linny wasn't in the tunnel when crime took place.
That's right! Linny wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Linny had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! How do you like that?
Oh my god, hell.
Well played. To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Linny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
The murderer was... Select the gear icons in the interface to check the corresponding case question. Select answers and fill all empty gears to verify the correctness of your deduction. If you have made mistakes, you must make another selection from the remaining options. Once you have answered all the questions correctly, you can complete this logic chain. The guard's investigation report indicates that the fireworks released near the end of the show ignited and burned through the ropes suspending the water tank above the stage. This caused the water tank to fall and kill Cowell in the box below. If Linny is no longer under suspicion, only the other members of the troupe would have been able to tamper with the props. Then he gave a detailed account of how the trick was supposed to work. By using a box inside a box, the idea was for the box containing the audience member to be transported across via a tunnel underneath, and Linny himself would also use this tunnel to get to the other side. Having changed her outfit, Lynette and her assistant would take charge of onstage interactions. Clothes belonging to Halsey, the lady who went missing, were found in the tunnel. The reason for this remains unknown. Who was the only person who could have possibly committed the crime?
The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment.
Oh sheesh, hypothesis correct, bro.
Huh?
Yo, this man's died.
That can't be right. Are you serious?
I am very serious, Final.
The killer was, in fact, Cowell, the deceased!
Whoa.
Oh, is that so? How interesting! Let's hear your reasoning then.
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator to victim.
Oh my god. How can we envisage Linny as having been unable to interfere with the crime?
The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal.
How can I prove that there was an altercation in the tunnel? Oh wait, no.
The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing... Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. No one entered or left the opera house through its end. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between...
Who is the prime suspect?
The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant.
Where did the missing Halsey go?
It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would... No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey?
Oh.
Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. No one entered or left the opera house.
Gosh.
It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent.
The criminal must have understood the methods behind Linny's magic trick and must have been in position to easily modify the equipment. Leaving aside how he died, Cowell had all the means to commit the crime at his disposal. A strange noise could likely have been the sound of Cowell and Halsey struggling. Linny was not in the tunnel for 1 minute. This would have given time for Cowell to bring Halsey out of the magic box in the audience stands, but according to the guard's testimony, no one entered or left the opera house, so even if he had taken her, there'd be no means of exiting. Exiting from the box would have been in full view of the audience, pretty much guaranteeing that they would be discovered.
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble figuring things out?
Where in the world did Halsey go?
I see how it is. So this was all just a bluff. And here I thought you had something to show for it. But it seems you're still far from the truth.
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider a different track?
Okay.
Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial design.
If only we knew how Halsey disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits, and none of them seem very likely. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
Oh shoot, magic escaping from the water tank. Wait, could it have been the water?
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents, but do you not see that the crowd is growing impatient? There is no greater sin in this opera house than an awkward delay in the performance.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Hold on a second.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment.
Where did the missing Halsey go? No,
The vase was not broken by chance. It was used to cover important evidence. The water.
No way. Aether so big brain.
Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Halsey disappeared instead of being kidnapped. Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Just a moment, please. I do hope you know how preposterous you sound at the moment. How could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here, not some magic trick.
I requested they examine Cowell's personal effects. We might find something there.
Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend Linny already knows this truth very well. Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about two completely different things.
Even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a tactic for stalling the trial.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects of the deceased, Cowell.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone post-haste.
Okay.
We discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately. The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are... water from the Primordial Sea.
The Primordial Sea?
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times. One of these tubes was labeled Opera Epiclese, along with yesterday's date. It is empty.
Ooh.
The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as some sort of test subject. As such, we believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by sufficient evidence.
You've got to be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Could something so ridiculous actually be true?
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Huh. If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell was targeting that girl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two, with me, quick!
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order! It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personal effects has yielded some surprising results. but we cannot yet verify the veracity of these clues. Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic, albeit with the understanding that Ms. Halsey has yet to be found. Guards, please continue examining the items along these lines. Mr. Linney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence, so please continue speaking.
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor. If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated clues can be connected together.
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that water from the Primordial Sea.
The liquid that guards found in Cowell's luggage seems to have the ability to dissolve Fontainians into water. Select any clue to view detailed information. Who is the prime suspect currently?
The deceased's name is Cowell. Linney's...
What item did the culprit use to control the timing of the dissolution?
Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. The water from the Primordial Sea should already have been prepped before Halsey entered the magic box. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick.
What item did the culprit use to dissolve
the water from the Primordial
Halsey?
Sea should...
What item did the culprit use to hide the mechanism behind the crime?
The rope that held the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and snapped.
Oops.
Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire... I remember there was something else.
Okay. I will stop recording and just come back here. Oh.